Your pal Mike Shea from Sly Flourish, here with another episode of Sly Flourish's Lazy D&D Prep. This is a weekly show shot 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Twitch, in which I go through steps from Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master while preparing for my Sunday D&D game. In this case, I am in the second to last session of my Eberron Second Mourning game. This show, like all of the work of Sly Flourish, is brought to you by the patrons of Sly Flourish. If you want to help support this show and all of the work that I do on Sly Flourish, you can do so by going to patreon.com/slyflourish and becoming a patron. Patrons get access to all kinds of exclusive content, but most of all, they help me make shows like this and the website, keep the website up, and all the other things that I do. All the costs for all the things that I do are covered by the patrons of Sly Flourish. So thank you very much to the patrons who help make this show possible. So yes, I am at the second to last episode. The characters are in the final big dungeon of my campaign, which is a place called Clawrift. They've heard about Clawrift for a long time, and now they are there. So we're going to start off by going to our notes here. I already created a template for today's session. I would do so by clicking the generate session planning template. Of course, this is all done in Notion. I use Notion for all my campaign planning these days. I absolutely love it. You can find out all about Notion if you're here on Twitch. I'll put a link in Twitch. And if you are watching on YouTube, you can go down in the show notes below, and there's links to my article about how to run D&D using Notion, and links to create your own template, your own Lazy DM template, which I use a lot. So, and the template for each session matches the steps from Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master. Although I added a to-do in this one because there's something I want to remember. So let's talk about what happened in the last game. So the last game, we ended in the middle of a fight. They were battling Sora Terraza, one of the three daughters of Sora Kel. The daughters of Sora Kel are the leaders of the Droam, the monstrous nation of the Droam. The daughters have allied themselves, or really sort of taken over, Leto Skal, who is the main villain of the campaign. And using his knowledge and his power, they are trying to build the weapon of mourning, the same kind of weapon that had been built back when the mourning occurred. They're doing so because they want, if they have this weapon in their power, they can become a ratified nation under the Treaty of Thronehold. They can become, no one will be able to push the borders of the monstrous nation if they have a weapon so devastating that they could destroy all of Sharn, right? So, so that is their goal. They are doing this in the city of Making, and in the center of the city of Making is a huge structure called Clawrift, which goes deep, deep, deep under the ground. Clawrift actually is sitting upon the ruins even older than Sire, than Galifar, even older than the Dakani, the goblin nation of the Dakani. There is this portal that's down there that draws energy from all of the planes of existence. And if you can channel that energy into something, you can pour a tremendous amount of power and channel it into some kind of thing and create a weapon. So, back 10 years ago, they had done this, but it didn't work, and it blew up the portal. And now there's like this pure beam of raw energy pouring out of this thing. I'm basing this heavily on like Chernobyl, right? That there was like a reactor and the reactor blew up, and now there's these like radiant energy just pouring out of this place. And the daughters and Leto and the others are still trying to channel that energy and create something, probably a living spell. And I think that what they're trying to do is create a living wish, right? That if they can sort of channel and encapsulate a living wish, they will have this massive weapon that they can use that could put them on the map and make sure that nobody could ever shake their world up again. So the characters were fighting Sora Terraza, who was the sage, and that worked really well. I'm not a very tactical DM. I just bought. I owned the ebook version of Keith Ammon's The Monsters Know What They're Doing, but I just bought the paper copy too. I've got a paper copy sitting there because I was like, I need a paper copy that I can keep on hand. But I'm not a very good tactical tactical DM. But every so often I stumble into good tactics. And what I stumbled into was I think we talked about in this last session or the session before, I think it was a couple sessions ago. And I was like, who would make good bodyguards for a blind sage? And we said basilisks. And then I'm like, well, how about dire basilisks? And I'll give you, here's a tip. If you want a tip for today, something that you can take and use right away, a blind mage with basilisks, right? Is if you want to make a dire creature, you can make a dire creature very easily. You can almost use like the 3.5 template idea, but you could make it, it's pretty easy to do in your head. Double its hit points, give it an extra attack action, or you kind of, either an extra attack action or like double the amount of attacks it does. And probably give it a couple points on the attack and damage, right? Yeah, +2 to attack and damage. That kind of makes a dire version. So if you want to make, it's very easy, and you can do it in your head. So if you go to like D&D Beyond, and we'll go to the basilisk. And you want to make a dire basilisk. You say, okay, so instead of 52 hit points, it has 104 hit points, right? You just double its hit points. Instead of 1 bite attack, it has 2 bite attacks, and it'll be +7 to hit instead of +5 to hit. That's it, right? That's done. Maybe you increase the DC from 12 to 14. You basically bump all the numerical things up a couple points. And then you have a dire basilisk, and you don't have to even write it down. You just, in your head, you just go as DC 12, you say DC 14, right? Very easy to make a dire creature. A dire creature is basically just like a great big version of the original creature you have. Let's make a dire wyvern, for example. A dire wyvern, right? So wyverns are already pretty tough, right? So, a dire wyvern, 220 hit points. I probably don't bump up the AC. I'd probably keep the same AC. And this one, 2 attacks with its bite and 1 with its stinger. I would probably give it a 3rd attack or let it do, maybe it can do 2 claw attacks. You improvise, right? You look at the monster and say, okay, it's going to do bite, 2 claws, and a stinger instead of just a bite and a sting. And then we'll increase its attack to +9. So a dire wyvern would be really tough. And CR wise, it's at least a couple of CR ahead, maybe even more. Like a dire wyvern might be as many as like a CR 9 or 10. But don't worry too much about the challenge ratings either. Just throw it in when it works, if it makes sense. And dire basilisks made sense that she would have really, really tough basilisks. So the fun tactical thing is I also said, okay, well, she's got Cyclops. She's got 2 Cyclopes that are her guardians, but they would be turning to stone all the time. So why don't we make them blind? But that's fine. So they were not blind, but blinded. They wear masks, they wear helms that cover their eyes. But then what kind of bodyguards are those? Like, those are lame bodyguards, right? And they're going to be disadvantaged. So I'm like, no, we'll give them the blind fighting style from Tasha's, right? Tasha's now has a fighting style called blind fighting. We'll just give them that. So they as long as they're within 10 feet of an enemy, they can attack even though they're blinded. And what that does, that created, so that just made sense to even the playing field. But then the really interesting thing that happened with that is that if the characters decided to close their eyes and thus avoid getting turned to stone by the dire basilisks, that meant the Cyclopes had advantage to hit them. And the characters are at disadvantage to hit the Cyclopes. And they said, like, wait a minute, but we're both blinded. I'm like, yeah, but they're trained to be blind fighting. You're not. So they are effectively not blinded when they're fighting. They have advantage, right? And that meant that the Cyclopes became way more dangerous when they closed their eyes and fought them than when they opened their eyes. So now they had this real damned if you do, damned if you don't. If we open our eyes, we could get turned to stone. And one of the characters did get turned to stone. Or if you close your eyes, you're going to get punched in the face by Cyclopes that have advantage on the attack, and you can't hit the Cyclopes. So it was a really tough fight. Level 11 characters, and still a really tough fight. And then I had Sora Terasa herself. I used one of the mage stat blocks from Volo's guides. I forget which one, but she was casting a lot of really tough spells. She banished people, and she did all kinds of things. I think she tried to turn to stone. It turns out that this flush to stone spell is pretty lame because it's like all these saving throws stacked up. It wasn't really that cool. It wasn't nearly as cool as like the stone gaze of the basilisk. So they got through that, and then they started making their way through through the Clawrift. Let's take a look because we'll put in our fantastic locations. We put in Clawrift. Fill out our notes. Away we go, and then look at it. So. They teleported into this gateway on the upper left. Let's go to the original picture here. So they started up where it says gateway. And they made their way around to the right. They looked at the overlook and saw the huge pit in the center where the big beam of energy is pouring out. Then they continued to make their way. They went to the deep shaft. And the funny thing is they went the exact same path that my other character, that my other group did. So they went to the deep shaft, which is this like 150-foot drop where there used to be some kind of lift, but the lift is now long destroyed. So they had to climb down this. I think they used ropes to make their way down. And they got down to level 2. Level 2 is here. So with level 2, they started off with the deep shaft. And then they come out and they see the massive crater where the Clawrift is. This area is about 150 feet further. It's actually 3 levels for Clawrift. They got burned while they made their way around. Then they went into this chamber to the lower left where the Forgotten Armory is. They met some specters. This I just stole right out of my Wednesday game. They found the secret entrance. They found the old laboratory. They found some interesting items to pick up. Made their way around here. Found the secret door. And then they got to the Drawham Sentinels. And at the Drawham Sentinels is where I think it's a bunch of war trolls and at least one Medusa are fighting Lord of Blades people. So there's a bunch of Lord of Blades soldiers fighting on this crumbling bridge and the Drum Sentinels. And this lower lift here is where a huge construct purple worm is burrowing its way in, so that the complication going on is that the Lord of Blades are making an end run to try to get the weapon while the Droam are making it. And the characters are involved in both of these. So we have like a fun kind of two front situation going on here in Clawrift. So that was where the game went. So where it's going today is pretty straightforward. It's the second to last game, which means there's not a lot of zany things going on, right? There's not a lot of stuff going on. My hope and my plan is that they will at least get to the final battle today, if not start the final battle. And then next session will be just the final battle and then the end of the campaign. So we're going to go back to our notes. But we will start by reviewing the characters. So we got our Sunday D&D game. We go to the gallery. Zarentir Delander. I don't know how. Oh yeah, there's one thing that Sabers comes up. I was gonna say I don't think there's many things that are going to come up that involve the characters directly, but I take that back. I think there will be plenty of stuff. Zarentir Delander is a member of House Delander. He is a dragon marked noble and flies airships, but keeps crashing them. I forget, I did something where they saw their worst nightmares, and his nightmare was that he was going to have to become Mrs. Robinson's page. I think that was something she did. She did this like nightmare spell, right, where they all saw like their worst nightmares, and Shane Husk, couldn't sell a book. Fun stuff. Saber is a bounty hunter, monk of the Four Winds shifter. His rival is here in Clawrift, so his rival will probably be coming up in this next, maybe not in this next game, but maybe he'll be one of the guardians. That'd be pretty good. He'd be one of the guardians in the final battle of Clawrift. Might be a good way to do it. We have Shift, one of the first Warforged. She is a warlock. Her patron is Lady Elmaro. And she was built to capture the weapon, or she was built to serve the Emerald Claw, but she has broken away from that. We have Shane Husk. Shane Husk is a notable author, notable novelist, who has come to realize that the adventuring life is not really for him, so he's looking forward to retiring soon. We have Banner, who is a Warforged paladin of the Becoming God, and former member of the Lord of Blazes group. And we have Arwen Chi Sizu, who is a Dragon Mark member of House Civis, and an artificer. So those are the characters in today's games. There's a couple of secrets that we can draw right from the characters. I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to keep that other window open. And so go right into our secrets. So secrets and clues. And I think it was Saber's rival is named Scar. So we're going to have Scar is one of the daughters, guardians in Clawrift. So that's one secret that's tied to a character. Another one is that Lady Elmaro hopes to convince Shift to capture the weapon of mourning and bring it to the Emerald Claw. I already know that's going to fail, and that's cool. Doesn't matter. So those are a couple of secrets. I had another secret in mind that was coming up, probably tied to the strong start. The Lord of Blades, likewise, hopes to capture the weapon in order to make a nation for the Warforged. Wolfie Higgs says, can Notion be used to keep track of entire campaign notes? Yes, all of my campaign notes are here. I have notes for every session that I've run, and they're all interconnected, and I have all the people and locations and everything are all wired in. So like if you saw me hyperlink to Lady Elmaro, I click it and I get a whole thing about Lady Elmaro, right? So yeah, you can tie all your... That's what's so great about Notion, is it sort of hyperlinks, builds like your own wiki around your own campaign, and you've got it on hand. And then you can store it. So I have my Eberron, or my Avernus one, which I finished, is now encapsulated in a big pile of HTML files that's sitting on my local drive. So I have like my own offline copy of an entire campaign. It's really a cool way to have things. What other secrets are going on? I think they already know this. The daughters sent simulacrum of themselves to Clawrift. They'd never come themselves. They never put themselves at such risk. I think they already know that. I'm sure they already know that. So what other secrets are coming up? What Leto Skal has been invaded by a quarry and hopes to use this as an excuse for his actions. Leto and Cavella were both drawn here by the daughters. Against their will. What other thing? Oh, so the portal at the center of Clawrift is a shattered gateway to many planes. Now it's just raw energy pouring into the world. The gateway of worlds is older than even the Droam. No one knows who originally... I can't spell. Who originally built it. So we got to do some, so Lack is their sentient crystal ball, one of the emissaries of the Dreaming Dark. Lack wants the characters to use the key they found to shift the gateway to Dalcor and then throw him in. The daughters are attempting to pull a living wish into existence. The daughters are attempting to pull a living wish into existence and encapsulate it. The daughters want the weapon. I think they already know this too. As leverage. It's not leverage. What's that called? As a deterrent. Nah, it's not really a deterrent. The daughters want the weapon as leverage to become a ratified nation under the Treaty of Thronehold. That's a lot of secrets. I think those are 10. There's more than 10 already. So we're good on secrets. We'll come back to secrets later. But let's go back up and talk about the strong start. So huge rumble. Wall collapses. The characters find themselves in a three-way fight between the Lord of Blades and the Droam. So they're going to start right off with a, oh man. So the Battle of the Bridge. That's the first scene. If we go back to our maps, let's see. Let me go to, so the location, nice thing about locations is just Clawrift. So they're going to go to the crumbling bridge. And then I think they're going to meet Cavella. I did this in my other game and it worked well. I lost my notes. They're there. Battle of the Bridge. Cavella. Meeting Cavella is sort of like reintroducing an old NPC. That's fun. Then make their way down to level 3. And then confrontation. So really, and then Finn 1 year later, right? Gateway Woes. So this is that's pretty much the whole campaign in the next 2 sessions, right? In these 5 bullet points. They're going to have the Battle of the Bridge. They're going to meet Cavella as they make their way through. We can have some other scenes in some of the smaller areas. Then they go down to level 3, and then they go to the Gateway of Worlds. That's the final battle. They have the final battle, and then after the final battle, we have 1 year later. We'll probably have like a, leaving, mostly a montage of leaving making. One fun thing I want to do here is their Bodak passengers. They met some Bodaks, friendly Bodaks, because who doesn't want some friendly Bodaks? They met some friendly Bodaks, and they said, hey, we have a train. Why don't you go meet our train, and we'll get you to a nice place, like an old library. And so they're going to go back, and they're going to go in there, and there's going to be a bunch of Bodaks sitting in the seats like, oh, hey. Yeah, we're glad you're back. We thought we'd take you up on your offer to take us to a nice place. So that'd be fun. But that's pretty much all of the scenes for the rest of the campaign, which is, pretty cool. I have a to-do list. For those in the pre-show who saw this, I put this together, which is I need to remind the players that they're going to have a 1 year later montage in the next game session. After we're done with the conclusion, assuming they're not all killed. So it should be flexible, but keep in mind generally where you think your character would go on the assumption you survive this terrible, terrible ordeal. So locations, we just have Clawrift. NPCs, we have Cavella is one NPC. We have, so there's another NPC that I made up, a Goblin Artificer. There he is, Raze. Just in case I need him. I didn't bring Raze into the game in my Wednesday game, so we'll see if I bring him in here. We have Broadsword, who is the leader of the Lord of Blades' people here in Clawrift. She's the one that's trying to get the weapon. We have Lido Skull. We have the daughters. So Sora, Ketra, and Sora Mania. They're still alive. We have Scar. Pretty good range of NPCs. I don't think that we have any others coming up. So that's good. Deadly Encounter benchmark. They are level 11. There are 6 of them. So let's assume there are 5. So it's between, so 55, half of 55, 54 would be 27. So it's between 27 and 33 is the deadly benchmark. What that means is if the sum total of monsters is above 33, the encounter could potentially be deadly. But I will tell you, level 11 characters are super robust, so you can go way above 33. Monsters. So we're gonna do all of the I'm gonna do another set of monsters. I'm gonna do just the monsters for the final battle. But the monsters that are we're gonna start with the monsters that are wandering around. The monsters that are wandering around Clawrift. And so here we have trolls. Why am I adding that? So we have trolls, Medusa. We have, are we going to do more cyclopes? Cyclopses. Cyclopes. What other agents of the Droam do we have? Sora Mania. It's the voice of the voice of Ketra are Medusa. The fists of Mania are the trolls and the cyclopses. I guess we don't really need any more monsters. That's probably fine. There were those cool, I guess, yeah, in Volo's guide they had like the siege ogres. We could have bugbears as kind of the foot soldiers. So, and then we have Warforged people. So we have Warforged veterans. Probably Warforged cult fanatics and Warforged mages and maybe Warforged assassins. What would Droam? So we have bugbear assassins. Would be pretty good. So that's those are the, oh, and then we have of course a Warforged purple worm. Oh, and Warforged Titan. Harpy Assassin. Now we're talking. I like that better than Bugbear Assassins. That's cool. We have Bugbear Veterans. Cool. That's a lot of monsters. We'll see how that goes. But then we have Final Battle. Final Battle monsters. And this is going to be pretty robust. So, Sora, we have Sora Mania. I don't know how to spell her name. Maenya. And Soramania is a fire. She uses a fire giant stat block with a magical mace. This is Soramania. She's badass. So I think we'll just link to her. We'll just link to her notes because that works. And then we have Sora Ketra. She is a abjurer with a staff of power. Also linked. That's a picture of Sora Ketra. She has wings of flying as well. So we have a nice stat block for her. I like to double up the hit points in these bosses too. We have... so let's look at the map, right? Let's pull up the map of... That would be level 3. Let's go back to Clawrift here. And we go to our map of level 3. And this is where the final battle is going to take place, is in this central chamber in the lower right. So there's 4 altars of worlds. Each altar has a Medusa, has a spellcaster of some sort. That's either a Medusa mage. Let's see. I lost my notes again. There they go. So we have Medusa mages, and they are protected by, probably by Cyclopses, right? Fist of Mania Cyclopses. There's 3. So Leto's Skull is here. And he's an Oni slash... let's go back to here. We'll go Oni. I need to turn off my... Whoops. So we have an Oni. But he is possessed by a quarry. It's the crazy blue quarry. Hashalak. So we have the stat blocks for the quarry. I need a stat block for Scar. Now there is a monk NPC. Let's see. We'll go to game rules, monsters, advanced filter, monster tag, NPC, source, Volo, and filter. And there was a martial arts adept. That's kind of low CR though. Let's take a look at the martial arts adept stat block and see if there's anything. Could we beef up the martial arts adept? Probably. You know, bump up his damage, bump up the attack bonus. You know, do what we did with the dire creature, right? Double the hit points to 120, maybe even more. Give him maybe multiple unarmed strikes that do... You know, we could max the damage out, so it would be like 11 points of damage a hit, and he can do up to 4 hits. And then DC of drop an item, knocked prone, or stunned. Darts as well. So I think that one can work. So we'll do Scar, I wish there was a higher CR. I wish there was a higher CR monk stat block. But I think that will work. Is there something better that can reskin? I mean, one thing that's known for... Whoops. One thing that's known for monks is that they have lots of attacks. Yeah, I'm just, the thing is, like, I want to make basically a challenge 6 monk instead of a challenge 3 monk. So I'm going way above what I just want to take that one and beef up the stats, you know, and level it up. And so in my head, oh yeah, the Githzari have a monk, right? Good point. Githzari. Githzari monk. They are challenge. See, they're challenge 2, so they're even weaker. Do they have higher? Let's look at the other ones. They still make unarmed strikes. This is CR6. I don't know about the psychic damage. Because I think Githzari are probably a little too weird. This one might be okay. With 16. Whoa! And it's a legendary creature, so that's too high. If you're wondering what all these little buttons are, this is because I have Beyond 20 rigged in here, and I want to figure, you know, let's get rid of it, remove from Chrome. There we go. Now it looks normal. So probably easier to, you know, change gravity. Yep, they can cast reverse gravity. See, that's what I mean. It's like it's a little too weird. That gets very enlightened. CR10, this is not so bad. 3 unarmed strikes. 26 damage a hit. Whoa. Qualish has 2 monk stat blocks, one being the Elder Monk, but I don't know the module. Let me find out. Let's see if it's got it in there. That's the adventure. Let me do a search for monk. Let's see what we find out. Go to monsters. Monastery of the Distressed Body, Elder Monk. What is that from? That's from Laboratory Qualish. That's CR2. It's still pretty weak. That's even weaker. And those appear to be the only monks. Sacred Stone Monk. CR1 half. Yeah, so we'll just take that other one and we'll beef up the stats. I think that'll work fine. You know, it'll serve. I'm pretty good at improvising monsters on the fly. So you have a Medusa mage and a Cyclops at each of the altars, except one of those has one of those is protected by Leto. One of those is being used by Leto's Skull and protected by Soramania. So you don't have to worry about the other ones. I think I might change the Cyclops to trolls. We don't need to have Cyclops because they're going to get killed as crazy. They're going to get killed as crazy things happen in the battle. So they're not really at battle. Soramania and Soratarasa are kind of wandering around. You have, you know, Leto, as Leto's getting disrupted, eventually he's going to split into 2, an Oni and a Quarry. The Quarry wants to open up the portal to Dalcor, as does Lack. So there's how many? There's 3 Medusa mages. There are 3 trolls, but they're on opposite sides of the room. So like you're going to see them on the opposite sides of the room, but you may not ever deal with them. We have Leto's Skull. We have Scar. We have, so that means 1 less. We have 2 Fist of Mania trolls, because Scar is going to be protecting the other Medusa mage. Maybe we'll throw another Fist of Mania troll in there. Soramania and Soraketra are flying around, save a spellcaster. Is there anybody else in here? That's a crazy high challenge rating, by the way. That's way higher than 33 CRs, because it's like, yeah, it's crazy. It's like 100. but whatever. But they're busy. They're busy doing stuff, so it's not like they're all going to be fighting everybody all the time. Warforged Purple Worm. Maybe it burrows in at one point. Maybe. See if it would be fun. You know, if you want to shake things up, have a Purple Worm show up in the middle of your boss fight. Oh, and then if the living spell goes free, what does a living wish look like? An angry living wish. And I found a good stat block for an angry living wish, which is Yogrol, Lord of Entropy. That is a CR 23 legendary creature, tons of crazy spells, including power word kill and whatnot, and a scythe that does 37 points of damage. And if it reduces a creature to 0, they are disintegrated. So Yogrol, the Lord of Entropy. And I found a really cool picture of Yogrol that I want to capture. This picture here is awesome. I don't know where that's from. But we're going to copy that image. And we're going to make a new page. And we're going to do it in the Eberron database. Eberron campaign database. And we'll click that. And this is an NPC and a villain. And we'll paste the image in here. And then we'll paste the link to Yogrol. So we have that handy. Slotty Chaos God, yes. So my feeling is that if a living wish gets free, this is a pretty good representation of what a living wish is like. It will walk around with a scythe, disintegrating people and removing them from existence. And if it gets free, it'll just walk around and it'll destroy people. So it can be really cool, like, oh shit, we got something coming, everybody. Again, I did this for the Wednesday group and it worked really well, so I have a feeling it'll work well here. We should capitalize entropy. So that is good. Let's just get a purple worm stat block. Got a purple worm. Just call it a construct and you're done. So that's, a big key to reskinning, right? Is, you want a Warforged purple worm. You take the purple worm and you replace Gargantuan Monstrosity with Gargantuan Construct. And you're done. Now the rest of it is pretty much the same, right? Real easy to do. So I don't know if that's going to happen or not. We'll see. Treasure, we have a Wings of Flying, a Staff of Power, a +2 Unholy War Maul. We probably have a Rod of Absorption and a Ring of Mind Shielding. Those are items that are all being worn by various members of this final battle here. The Wings of Flying and the Staff of Power are for Sorakatra. The Unholy War Maul called, what's it called? It's got a neat name. Whoops, wrong one. I wrote this up before. The Hammer of Mabar. The Hammer of Mabar sends people to Mabar with it does Banishing Strike, and it banishes them to Mabar. Not a Rod of Absorption, a Ion Stone. Leto is wearing that. And Leto is wearing the Ring of Mind Shielding, which protects his quarry side. So that is the treasure. I am going to create because I know the monsters that are here. So I'm going to create an initiative list specifically for the final battle. This is an Avre macro. So I can paste it into Discord. And I can immediately put everybody at the right spot. So we'll grab one of these, and we will get rid of those. And we have Sora, Ketra. We have to put them in quotes because it doesn't like Sora Mania. We have the Troll Fist of Mania. We have Medusa, Mage, Eye, or Voice of Ketra. We have, who else? Scar. Who else? Lido Skull. One other person I wanted to have come back, I forgot to mention, is we'll start her off with question marks. But another monster that I want to throw into this fight is Lido's bodyguard, who is Valentine. She was last seen. Valentine is a she is an what are they called? A Lamia. That last was thrown out of the side of a flying airship. But Lamias do not die. She is cursed, and she returned, and now she has been brought along with Lido to protect Lido. She is born and sworn to protect Lido, but doesn't really like the fact. So we have Valentine's going to show up. Who else in that final battle? Sora, Mages, Trolls, Lido, Valentine, Scar. And we will not worry about the other ones. We'll add them if we need them. So let's quickly look up initiatives for all these folks. So an Oni has an initiative bonus of 0. Okay. So that means Lido has a 0. The Adept, the Martial Arts Adept, has a 3, as one would expect. Scar has a 3. The Medusa has a 2. That's already set. The Troll has a 1. Soramania has the stat block of a fire giant. So she has a -1. She's not particularly fast. Sarketra is a diviner. Is that what I said she was? Let's go back up to the top here. Sarketra is an abjurer, and the abjurer has a 2. So she's already set. So there they are. So that's my initiative pile for the final battle. That way, all of the initiatives will be mixed up. And I don't have all the monsters going on one initiative because there's so many monsters in this fight. I expect this battle to take at least 2 hours, maybe 3. So I might start it today and end it in the next one, but it'll take a long time for this whole battle to take place. And that's why it's worth breaking up the initiative, because people get really bored otherwise. Great big fight. We're going to use Owlbear Rodeo for it. I don't know if I have the map in Owlbear Rodeo. Let's take a look. Owlbear. Start game. Hey, look, it remembers. So I have the tokens for all our characters. So that's great. I do not have the map. So why don't I add the map? So we're going to go back to our locations. Go to Clawrift. And we go to the raw version of this map. We'll go to the original. What I'm actually going to do is copy this image. I'm going to move it into a browser window that you guys can't see, but I can, where, might not work. Where I can blow it up really big and get a nice, good screenshot of that one room. Windows Shift S. Go here and here. And we grab that. And then it would go to, well, we'll just go to Paint. Go to Paint 3D, whatever the hell that is. New, paste. And we file. How do you, I can't even figure out how to save. We will save it as a JPEG. And we'll call it Clawrift. .jpg. We'll do it onto our desktop. Then we go back to Owlbear. And we're going to add a new map. Grab Clawrift. It kind of detects squares, but I think our squares are going to be 10-foot squares, so I'm going to have to double these. Owlbear has a bit of artificial intelligence to try to figure out squares, which is kind of neat. So it didn't like those squares at all, though. So we're going to say 50 by 25. That looks good. We'll zoom in here and see if we can get the squares to match. So that's not even close. So it needs to be more than that. So let's do 60 by maybe 65. I'm trying to get these to line up. Whoops, where did my little dot go? I'm trying to get these to line up to that square. So that's pretty close. Maybe a little bit smaller. That looks pretty good. And then this needs to be like 40. So lining up the grid can be kind of a pain. There we go. We will not draw the grid, and we will not snap to the grid. We just want it to be somewhat close. And then let's just make sure that it wasn't lined up again. There. So that's about as good as we're going to get. And so we hit save. And now if we select that map, you see that we've got a map. It's not, the resolution on the map is not great, but it'll serve. And then if we drop a token on, you can see that that's about the right size for a token. And it doesn't snap to a grid, so we can figure out. So it's a great big room, great big event going on here. Tokens for this stuff. So I could always, I don't know if I'll make tokens. I might just use, I might use the default tokens for the time being. I don't think I'm going to spend too much time worrying about the tokens. But I wish I could get the resolution better on that. A better way might be opening up the original one and cropping it. So, but I'll play with that later. I don't need to do it right now. So going back to our notes, I think our notes are pretty solid. I feel pretty good. There's some question about okay, well, what happens in some of these other rooms? I'm just going to wing it. I'm going to improvise a lot of this stuff. So if they go to other rooms inside Clawrift, like on level 2 has a bunch of different rooms. I put some Goblin Artificer Lab, Ruin Lift, Decrepit Elevator, Radiant Runoff. Those are probably the rooms they're most likely to run into on that level. I'll improvise that. And then the final one, same thing. I think I had the gateway to Dolora and Mabar. You could have some kind of weird spectral creatures or some other things there, and the characters could try to figure out how to avoid that stuff. So again, I'm going to kind of improvise those, those areas. If they see it, I'll just sort of describe some interesting things that they find. But I'm not going to worry about it too much because I don't know if they're going to go there or not. So why spend a lot of time worrying about that? Somebody asked what VTT it is. That is Owlbear Rodeo. Go to owlbearrodeo.com. Let's see. I'll grab that URL. It is my favorite VTT. It is super easy to use. No account required. No account required on anybody's side. It has a bunch of default tokens already set up. It's just tokens on a map. I have a whole video and a whole article about Owlbear Rodeo if you want to see it. So I think we are all set. I've got my notes. I feel pretty confident about what's going on. Lots of notes today. Big pile, but it's a lot of notes, but I could almost use these notes for both sessions. So we'll see what prep looks like next week. But yeah, I am ready to go. So I want to thank everybody for coming today. It's always a great joy to talk to you guys on Twitch while I'm prepping my game. And next week, we will have our finale. And then I'll probably do a show, probably not at the same time, but I will probably do a show about a recap, like what happened and how do I feel about this whole campaign and everything else that happened. I'll do a show about that. And then that Sunday, so a couple weeks, I think I'm going to have one Sunday off because I'm playing in another game. So maybe that Sunday would actually be a good day to do the recap. We'll see. And then we are going to start preparing for Rime of the Frostmaiden. So after then, we will be getting back to published adventures and talking about our session 0 for Rime of the Frostmaiden. So I'm excited about that. So thank you all very much for coming. Have a great day and get out there and play some D&D.